Looking now at those gas prices here in California, where the cost of fuel is breaking record after record. In fact, the state's trend of leading the nation in high prices has been consistent since May 11th. According to AAA, the national average for a gallon of gas hit a record $4.82 this week. But here in California, it's over $6.37 per gallon. Greg Upton is a researcher at Louisiana State University's Center for Energy. He's studying the impact of the skyrocketing prices, and he says there might be good news coming, but it won't be anytime soon.
What drivers want to know is, when could we start to see some relief?
So the relative good news right now is markets are in what we call backwardation. So that's a fancy term. That means that prices are anticipated to go down in the future.
Upton says the national average could fall to the mid $3 range by next March. Now, taking a look at some of the local gas stations that won't hit your wallet too deep. According to Gas Buddy, the fast strip in Wasco off Paso Robles Highway and the fast strip in Bakersfield off Bernard Street are both at $5.71 for regular fuel. The Rosie's Liquor Store in Delano is around $5.73 for regular. And back in Bakersfield, the gas for less off Bear Mountain Boulevard is still sitting at $5.77.
After splitting the first two games of the series, Game 3 of the NBA Finals between Boston and Golden State will be played on the East Coast at TD Garden tonight. So what does that mean? Well, there's a change in our newscasts. That's right. 23 ABC News at 5 will air as scheduled. Then the 6 and 7 o'clock shows will be preempted for Game 3. A special edition of 23 News will air at about 9 o'clock and our regularly scheduled show at 11 o'clock. The finals right here on Channel 23. Be sure to tune in.
All right, well, now let's send things over to our chief meteorologist, Brandon Michaels. It'll be a good day to stay inside with that AC and watch the game.
Well, we are tracking another major warm-up here in Kern County. Excessive heat watches now in effect for Friday and Saturday for the valley communities, the Kern River Valley, and over in the desert. We're going to be seeing quite a bit of triple-digit temperatures here as we head through the forecast, and we've actually already seen those. Yesterday's high temperatures, Edwards 99 degrees, China Lake all the way up to 104, so already dealing with that heat. We're going to see more of that here today. I'm going 95 degrees, your high temperature in Bakersfield, but look at those temperatures over in the desert, 104 and 105 for China Lake and Ridgecrest. So we definitely have those triple digits already. And again, they're going to become more widespread as we head through the forecast. Another day of slightly stronger winds over in eastern Kern with those gusts about 40 miles per hour. Not too much wind here in the valley with those winds up to about 15. And as we take a look at our air quality for today, that is going to be in the moderate range. So no real concerns with that air quality. Going through your 7-day forecast, again, it's really Friday and Saturday that we're concerned with that heat really building in. 103 on Friday and 103 on Saturday. That would be the warmest days of the year so far. The warmest day so far is 102. Temperatures drop back into the 90s pretty quickly, though, as we head towards the second half of the weekend. 7-day forecast for our mountain communities. Same story there. That big warm up as we head into Friday and Saturday. Triple digits in sight for Lake Isabella, 90s for Tehachapi and Fraser Park. But the temperatures, just like us here in the valley, will drop fairly quickly once those temperatures peak.
Still to come, we are continuing with the very latest on the primary election right here in Kern County and across the Golden State. Keep it locked in. We're coming right back 6:20 on this day after the primaries. You're watching 23 ABC. Welcome back, 6:23. Is anyone in your family planning to move this summer? If so, there's a warning that you need to hear from the Better Business Bureau when it comes to hiring movers.
That's right. Consumer reporter John Mattery shows us how to avoid being scammed so you don't waste your money.
Audrey Costin Shelton is finally unpacking in her new apartment.
Found my flashlight.
Something she worried wasn't going to happen. She paid a moving company a $100 deposit, but then the movers never showed.
The moving company says, well, none of our trucks are back and I can't give you a timeline. Just call back a little bit later.
So they rescheduled, but never showed on the second date or the third date.
Well, they didn't show up on 3 different days?
They said, well, you know, it's late. OSHA says they can only work so many hours, so, you know, you won't be moving today.
She finally canceled and paid some neighbors to move her belongings.
Now, May through August is peak season for moving. The Better Business Bureau says it's also peak season for complaints about movers. Last year, the Bureau had over 1,000 complaints nationwide. up 200% from the year before.
The BBB's Josiel Ehrlich says no-show movers are one of the top complaints. The other, movers holding your goods hostage until you pay more.
Be careful of lowballers. Those are people who come in and give you a very low quote. It all sounds great. They come, they pick up your belongings, they move them, but when it's time to drop them off, they say, hey, wait a minute, we have all these additional fees that we didn't tell you about.
Ehrlich says to protect yourself, get quotes from 3 moving companies. Get a signed, binding estimate or an estimate that says the maximum you will have to pay. And read reviews of the company on the Better Business Bureau's website. Audrey says next move she'll do a lot more research.
Moving is traumatic on its own, but to be pushed back, 3 times.
And that way you don't waste your money. I'm John Matarese.
In other news, June is Pride Month for the LGBTQ community, and ABC is continuing their series Soul of a Nation with a special all about Pride. It's called Pride to be Seen, hosted by Cara Delevingne, featuring pillars of the LGBTQ community. They'll outline their experiences and break down what it means to be a part of this community. It's airing Thursday night at 9 p.m. right here on 23, but if you miss it live, you can also find it streaming on Hulu. Well, summer can bring new challenges for parents, like scrambling for childcare or finding ways to bring healthy foods to their kids. So local school districts are stepping up to make sure there are meals available for Kern County families. The U.S. Department of Agriculture is partnering with the Kern High School District to provide free breakfast to kids from 2 to 18 years old starting as of yesterday, June 7th. There are 18 high schools participating, including Arvin, Bakersfield, South High, and Vista West high schools. For full list, visit kernhigh.org. And the Rosedale Union School District also providing free meals to youth 18 and under this summer. Text FOOD to 304-304 to find a location closest to you.
In other local news, if you are looking for ways to get out and get involved, you can always sign up for the Pulling for the Homeless Clay Shoot. Sponsored in part by 23 ABC. It's hosted by Flood Ministries. All the benefits go to help our local homeless population. It is this Saturday. There's still time to sign up. Go to floodbaco.com.
Well, there's still much more to do in our final half hour. Up next, we're breaking down all the post-election day news. We'll get you up to date on the statewide races to keep your eye on after the break.
Live from Kern County's streaming news leader, this is 23 ABC News at 6:30, and it starts now.
The early returns are in, and we're getting our first look at results from the primary election. We'll break down races in Kern County and across the state.
And a good morning to you. Thanks for staying with 23 ABC News at 6:30. A very busy morning. I'm Mike Hart.
And I'm Callan Hobman. Lots to break down today following the election.
Very exciting. With poll results still coming in all morning long, we're keeping you up to date with this week's primary election results. Reminder that while all the precincts have reported in, all the early mail-in ballots have been counted. Provisional ballots, those that were mailed yesterday over the last few days, those still coming in need to be counted 36 days to count those ballots. So obviously nothing is officially final yet.
So make sure you stay up to date with us. And if you miss a newscast, you can always get our live updates on our mobile app, your streaming services like Roku and Apple TV, and our social media platforms. Also, you can find in-depth election coverage on our website, turn23.com.
Now, in the lopsided races, we already pretty much know who is moving to the runoff in November. In the gubernatorial race, Governor Gavin Newsom receiving nearly 2 million votes, outdistancing a field of more than 24 challengers, coming in with 56.3% of the vote last night. The closest challenger, Republican and State Senator Brian Dolly from up north, he had 16.8% and looks to be moving on to face Newsom in November. It was Michael Schellenberger in third place in the ballots with about 4% of the vote. And in the Secretary of State race, Shirley Weber moving on to November right now with 58%. The number 2 challenger, Republican Rob Bernofsky, had more than 19%. Now Republican Rachel Hamm was third with 11.4%. As the weeks move on, we'll see if that gap narrows at all.
And now turning to the Attorney General race, Rob Bonta will get a chance to fight to keep his seat in November, holding on strong with 54.5% of the votes, about 1,819,000 votes total, and like we mentioned, still counting. Nathan Hochman in second, his votes estimating at around 18.5%, just over 615,000 total so far, with Eric Early coming close behind at just 16.8% of the vote, and a total of just over 560,000 votes. Now for the race for U.S. Senator, Alex Padilla also looking to remain in office. His votes coming in at 53.5% of the total, with over 1,771,000 votes. Next up in place is Mark Musser with just 14.3% of the vote, over 475,000 votes total, and Cordy Williams third at 6.7% and over 222,000 votes.
And taking a look at the congressional district race in District 20, Representative Kevin McCarthy taking an early lead in that area.
23 ABC's Veronica Morley is joining us live in studio now with a breakdown of those results and what it all means. Veronica.
Yes, good morning. Well, taking a look as of this morning, incumbent Kevin McCarthy is still in the lead with 57.1% of the votes. Now, McCarthy declared victory overnight, releasing a statement saying, in part, I want to thank the voters of the new 20th district for their support. It is my greatest honor to represent you in Congress, and I will continue to fight to stop the rising cost of inflation in our stores and at the pump, keep our neighborhoods safe, and bring more water to our farms and communities. Now, before redistricting, McCarthy represented the 23rd Congressional District. His new district includes parts of Fresno, Kern, Kings, and Tulare counties. Now, trailing behind McCarthy is Democrat Marissa Wood with 25.8%, Ben Dewell with 7.8%, James Davis with 5.2%, and Republican James McCauley with 4.2%. Now, McCarthy is currently House Minority Leader, as we've seen him come under scrutiny over the last few months leading up to the election following the release of those January 6th audio tapes. That doesn't seem to have had much impact on his standing given these results. Now, as we mentioned yesterday, Republicans, if they're able to flip enough seats, McCarthy could be in line for the next Speaker of the House. But for now, it looks like McCarthy and Wood might be facing off this November. In studio, I'm Veronica Morley, 23 ABC, connecting you.
Many of the candidates were gathering for watch parties last night. Leticia Perez, Louis Gill, and Rudy Salas all gathering with their supporters, anxiously watching the returns. Perez, as you know, a county supervisor, is facing Dr. Jasmeet Bains in the 35th Assembly seat race. Perez telling 23 last night she's grateful to have the chance to positively grow Kern County and connect with the community.
We've demonstrated in this race that we can lead with civility, that we don't have to attack anyone. We can run on the merits and say we believe and love Kern County. We believe in the opportunities for Kern County families, for Kern County children. We believe that we are the energy experts of the globe. And we'd like an opportunity to show that because we think we can improve the situation dramatically.
And candidate Dr. Jasmeet Bains talking about her first run for office, did well. She says she is running to be a community advocate.
We are going to be electing a true public servant to office, not someone that's going to try to do this for their own personal gain or has any record of wanting to use their political office for personal gain, but actually a person that has a true track record of fighting for the community and understands the real problems that have affected Kern County day in, day out for decades.
And since there are just two, both are moving on to the general election.
And taking a closer look at the race in the 22nd Congressional District, we are joined live now by David Valadao. So far this morning, it looks like his opponent will be Rudy Salas on the November ballot. Congressman Valadao joining us via Zoom from Washington, D.C. Good morning.
Morning. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We appreciate your time. So Rudy Salas grabbed the early lead in this newly drawn district. How does this new district differ from the one that elected you 4 years ago?
Well, the district that I'm currently serving in, the 21st Congressional District, is the most Democratic seat held in the country by a Republican, me. And the 22nd, the new lines, it's just a little bit tougher. I mean, it's still a very blue seat. But as you can see last night, even Rudy didn't get over 50%, which is a good sign for ourselves, especially being that he was the only Democrat in the race. And in the House Majority PAC, Nancy Pelosi's super PAC actually spent quite a bit of money both boosting him and attacking me in the district. So
like you said, you've seen firsthand how fluid voters in your congressional district can be, and you mentioned a little tougher now. So what are you going to do leading up to November now to bring in some more votes?
Well, I've got a lot of work to do with my own side. Obviously, there was 3 Republicans in that race, myself and 2 others. I've got to bring those back on, and then obviously I got to keep fighting for independence. And I've always done a really good job of getting some Democrat support, people across the aisle, and we've got to continue to focus on that as well. I mean, I've got to focus on issues that affect people. I think the price of fuel, price of food, everyday lives, price of housing, all those things have an impact. And I think we're going to focus on the issues that have the most impact on people's daily lives and try to make sure we message that as best we possibly can.
So like you just mentioned, there were other Republicans running in this race. Are you assuming that they will vote for you now in November, or do you have a plan in place to get their votes now that you're the leading Republican in this race?
So we never assume anything. Obviously, we've got a lot of work to do. Both of the Republican opponents I had don't actually live in the district, so there's no chance they could have even voted for themselves last night, much less for me in November. But yeah, as far as the voters themselves, we're going to do our best to communicate with anyone that might not have supported me, but hopefully will support me in November. I mean, ultimately, we've got to win this seat. We've got to make sure that we bring some common sense to Washington, take Nancy Pelosi out of power, and try to make life a little bit better for the people, not just the 22nd congressional district, but the country as a whole. And as you can imagine, inflation, price of fuel, price of food, baby formula, I mean, you name the topic, it seems like this administration and the Democrat leadership in the House and Senate have been failing miserably.
Well, your district has a smaller number of registered voters compared to others, so every vote counts. Do you have plans to encourage voter turnout in November?
Well, we always spend a lot of time, obviously calling, texting, emailing, door knocking, and we're going to continue to do all the things we've always done, which is work really hard on the ground, get as much voter contact as possible, and then the GOTV, get out the vote operation, especially at the end, will be a major component of the race.
You may have already mentioned a few, but what would you say are some of your signature issues that you are focused on moving forward going into the November election?
I mean, obviously, water is the one I talk about the most. That's a very important topic for every single one of our communities. It's the thing that comes up the most, especially when we're looking at building housing in any of our communities. The biggest holdup is, other than regulations from the state, is usually water. Water has an impact, obviously, on the agriculture front too. It's a job creator, but it also helps us be able to build homes so that we can house and hopefully lower the price of homes. Energy, very big deal, but also immigration. I think it's an important topic for us to always talk about and focus on. I mean, obviously, what we see on the border isn't good. We've got to make sure that we control the border, secure the border. We also have to have guest worker programs and things that benefit us here in our country. So, I mean, those are all issues I spend a lot of time on, but there's a lot more out there.
All right, well, Congressman David Valadao, running for Congressional District 22, thank you so much for your time joining us live from D.C. Have a great day.
You too. Thanks for having me.
All right, let's switch gears right now and get a check of that Super 7-day forecast. The hundreds are coming. Let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Brandon Michaels.
Good morning, everyone. We are bracing for some more heat here in Kern County. Our second round of triple digits of the year heading our way. Fortunately, that is not going to be getting here for today, at least not in the valley, but we're going to get to those triple digits fairly soon. Let's take a look at today's forecast here in the valley. We're going to peak in the mid-90s as we head into the afternoon hours. You can see we're already pretty warm by lunchtime, and we're going to be pretty slow to cool off, even as the sun is beginning to set, still in the 90s here. Quick look at the mountain communities. We're looking at temperatures that are going to be getting probably into the upper 70s to around 80 degrees over toward Tehachapi, so not too bad in the South Mountains. Lake Isabella, your temperatures are going to be getting up to about 90 degrees, if not a little bit warmer than that, as we peak around 5 p.m. So we already have some warmer than average temperatures today. We're going to keep warming up through the forecast, and we'll have more on that later in the show.
Coming up on 23 ABC, it looks like Los Angeles will have a new mayor after this week's election. We'll have more on those numbers when we come back.
Plus, a lack of tourism may actually have done wonders for one beach community. Talk more about that coming up after the break. 6:41 on this Wednesday. You're watching 23 ABC. Welcome back. 6:45 now. The city of Los Angeles will soon have a new mayor, either Congresswoman Karen Bass or billionaire developer Rick Caruso, both finishing at the top of a very crowded field.
My fellow Angelinos, we can make this city the city of our dreams. We can solve homelessness. We can curb crime. We can put City Hall back in the service of people. and we can do it together. We will do it together, and our dreams will come true.
Caruso is a pro-business Republican turned Democrat who sits on the board of the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation. He's promising to expand spending on police, not defund them. He spent tens of millions of dollars of his estimated $4.3 billion fortune to finance his campaign.
The city will see that it's hard to defeat a people-powered campaign. It's hard to defeat passionate door knockers, no matter how much money is spent. And it's hard to defeat folks